All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm sure you've all seen the news. There's a new outbreak of monkeypox. Well, about 200 cases in the entire world. But of course, the CDC, Bill Gates, of course, the World Health Organization, others, even President Joe Biden, they're talking about this right now and really looking at it like it's going to be the next pandemic. Again, 200 cases in the entire world, most of which appears to have come from a gay festival, I believe, in Spain, which we'll go over. Uh, there's a lot of interesting things that led to this that I want to go over tonight, including some weird germ games, they called them, that took place roughly about a year before this happened, which oddly predicted a monkeypox outbreak 1 year in the future, which just happens to be this month. And it also talked about predictions on numbers of infections and some other very strange things that align with other things Bill Gates, for some reason, was talking about. And Bill Gates's statements led to there being a vaccine approval, some of the vaccine stuff moving through on monkeypox. Weird stuff that aligns in odd ways, because right now, as we're speaking, the World Health Organization is making an effort, and with the backing now in the Biden administration, to be able to manage global health crisis. And if they can do that, well, they have it in their incentive to make sure there's a global health crisis, even if it's one case in America or two cases in America or something like that. We're going to go really in depth on this tonight. I want to show you the original sources. We're not going to be talking conspiracy. I'm going to show you the actual source documents. We'll be going straight to the source, and I'll be showing you exactly what's been happening. As always, there's a lot of stuff we can't talk about on YouTube. Around the 20-minute mark, we will jump exclusively to Epic TV. So if you're on YouTube or Rumble, get your free trial. We got you a 14-day free trial in the description. Get that. Come join the discussion. Frankly, there's a lot of stuff we can talk about on Epic TV. They'd probably ban us on YouTube for if we talked about. So literally, we can't talk about it on YouTube. But some of the stuff without risking the whole channel. So again, a lot of it's going to be reserved for the discussion over on Epic TV. Also, we have a special offer still, 50% off for the whole year. Folks, again, supporting Epic TV is how this channel is running these days. And so your support is helping us keep going. And also, we have a lot of great programs there, so check it out. It's also the 1-year anniversary. So that's why that's why the special offer is there for 50% off. So get that now while you can. Come join us. All right, that said, and we'll see about getting in other stuff too. I also want to go into some of how the media right now is trying to write off 2,000 Mules. But what they're doing is they're fabricating information, and they're using the fabrications they made to try to debunk the documentary that has nothing to do with the documentary. I'll explain that later on in the show. We'll see if we can get into other stuff, but I want to go really deep on the monkeypox outbreak and the weird stuff that led to this. All right, that said, let's get started. I want to show you first off where things are at right now. This is the New York Post. It says the World Health Organization is reportedly convening emergency meeting on monkeypox. It says the World Health Organization is reportedly convening an emergency meeting into the alarming spread. It's 200 cases, folks. Alarming spread of 200 cases. But again, it's international, whereas before it was mostly limited to parts of Africa. Of monkeypox around the world, including a possible case in the Big Apple, New York. It says the United Nations Health Authority is bringing together leading experts on a rare disease as a number of new countries announced their first confirmed cases Friday, according to the Telegraph. It says the main concern is how the virus, which is usually concentrated in West Africa, may be spreading, the UK paper noted, and many of the new cases being with people who had not recently traveled. The WHO will also be examining why clusters include gay or bisexual men, the paper said, with the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention giving similar warnings. Now, of course, this virus is normally limited to parts of Africa, West Africa. How is a virus normally limited to South Africa finding its way mostly into Europe and into the United States? Well, maybe because you have mass immigration and open border policies from West Africa. That could be a big point in that, which I really doubt they're going to be discussing. But just, saying the chicken and the egg, it makes a lot of sense. Now, a bit more on this. The timing of this is actually very important. This is deeply tied to the interests of the World Health Organization to be able to have a new pandemic, essentially, because right now, As we noted previously, the World Health Organization is in the process of getting approval on different types of policies that will basically make it able to manage global health crisis and do so without even having to consult with the host country. Now, even President Joe Biden is supporting the World Health Organization gaining these new powers. I remember a lot of you were saying, well, could the US do anything to stop it? You know, if the World Health Organization wants to dictate health policy in the United States, Biden is getting behind it. Not only is Biden getting behind it, his administration actually proposed that the World Health Organization be able to get some of these powers. Let me show you the Epoch Times on this. It says Biden seeks new unilateral powers for WHO chief to declare public health emergencies. It says, and I'm going to go over a bit of this on this one because there's a lot to talk about here. It says President Joe Biden's administration is pushing amendments to the World Health Organization's governing regulations to give its Director General Tedros unilateral authority to declare a public health emergency in any nation based on whatever evidence he chooses. Tedros could use any basis he wants. He would have unilateral authority. In other words, he would be the sole authority to determine that there's a health crisis in one country, and he can dictate the policies for that country. And frankly, we saw under COVID how broad-reaching those types of pandemic-type policies are. They can be things that affect elections, as we saw during COVID. They can be lockdowns. They can be shutting down of key industries. It gives Tedros basically the ability to be like dictator of in any country he wants in the entire world. And if a country refuses, the WHO will have one of the proposals, at least, is to give them sanctioning power. Now it says the proposed US amendments. These are the amendments that the Biden administration is actively trying to give to the World Health Organization. In other words, it's not just the WHO trying to do this. It is the Biden administration trying to give these powers to them. It says the proposed U.S. amendments were forwarded to the WHO back in January for consideration next week, this coming week, by the United Nations 75th World Health Assembly in Geneva, Switzerland. Now, it's important because this coming week is going to be when people determine whether the WHO gets these powers or not. And so the current situation, demonstrating its willingness to step in during a pandemic, demonstrating that it would do something, demonstrating its value, is, I think, one of the key parts you need to understand when understanding why there's so much focus probably on monkeypox right now, when again, it's only infected about 200 people in the entire world. It's very similar to what you have in China, where the frankly, I think the infections are actually higher in China, but where the Chinese Communist Party is saying, hey, one case of COVID in this entire city, we're going to lock down the entire city because of one case. 200 cases in the entire world, and they're making this much noise about it. But there's a lot of stuff leading to this, which actually is very suspicious, which I'll be getting into. It continues saying this. In a January 26th letter to a virtual meeting of WHO Executive Board, Lloyd Pace, Assistant Secretary for Global Affairs of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, meaning this is U.S. policy pushing for the WHO to get these powers, described the importance of equity and equitable access to medical countermeasures and the negative impacts of misinformation and disinformation related to the pandemic. Emphasizing here that when they're talking about giving the WHO unilateral powers to manage health crisis, it's not just about health. It's about information. And remember, the WHO itself declared that COVID-19 was an infodemic, information pandemic. In other words, one of the main thrusts of the World Health Organization at the start of COVID-19 was to try to shut down free speech when it came to the virus. The Biden administration is directly talking about this, again, saying misinformation and disinformation related to the pandemic. And this is in context of the powers they're trying to give to the WHO and some really freaky surveillance stuff too. Let me explain. Now it says this, among the proposed U.S. amendments, one of them would remove an existing requirement in Section 9 that the WHO consult with and seek to obtain verification from officials in a nation in which a health crisis is suspected before making any public declarations. In other words, Tedros would not even have to consult with the host country or verify information. He would not even have to verify information to declare a public health crisis in any country he wants and to get these additional powers. The same amendment provides that the WHO may take into account reports from sources other than notifications or consultants from the nation with a suspected problem, meaning Tedros can cherry pick any information he wants to make those determinations and basically do anything he wants. Tedros, of course, is an Ethiopian communist. Look up his background. He was very open about it. He's a full-blown communist. So this is deeply concerning on that level. Now, it says the same amendment provides that WHO may take into account reports. Oh, sorry, I went over that. And it says, and meanwhile, this, right? While they're doing that, meanwhile, the White House actually released a fact sheet. The Biden administration released a fact sheet on this, which talks about some of the domestic policies they want to put in really around this whole WHO program. So giving the WHO these types of powers would not be limited to the World Health Organization. The Biden administration is also giving $2.47 billion in mandatory funding to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention with some additional powers, which also could align with whatever the WHO wants to push. And these are freaky surveillance policies, the likes of which I never thought we'd see in America. Now, it says this funding to the CDC would include enhancements to domestic sentinel surveillance programs, expansion of domestic and global wastewater surveillance, and investments in global genomic surveillance approaches. Genomic is in like biometrics, I would assume, right? Gene level surveillance. Genomic, right? As well as global respiratory disease surveillance platforms. How do you have how do you have a surveillance program for global respiratory disease? Well, this is how you have that, just on that one point. Respiratory surveillance platforms include video cameras and recorders that alert authorities when members of the public are seen coughing or otherwise acting in a manner that could indicate the presence of an infectious disease or help spread one already present in a population. So, in other words, monitoring just about everything, including you. And if you cough, right? Again, global respiratory disease surveillance. If you're coughing, that will possibly alert authorities. That's what they're talking about. Now, under the Chinese Communist Party, they have programs like this. And really, the frightening thing with this is not to point everything back to like Hitler and World War II, but this is what Hitler and World War II did. They used a global health crisis to justify even the Holocaust. We've had, of course, experts on the show talking about that previously. You know, the way that they explained it was that there was a sickness on the body of the society, essentially. And so they declared a public health crisis on this sickness that was afflicting the people of Germany, essentially. And of course, they made that into a social thing, which is how they launched the genocide that they did launch. They used the excuse of a global health crisis to give them the type of unilateral powers that allowed them to do what they did. And again, we see this playing out. We see the same thing happening in China right now. Now, this, in my analysis, really is more of a Trojan horse when it comes to the way that monkeypox is being used to justify the granting of these types of powers to the World Health Organization and justifying the creation of these types of surveillance programs. Now, again, whether monkeypox is a real threat or not, and frankly, it doesn't seem to be already in West Africa. It's already in an endemic, meaning end of pandemic state. Already West Africa can even manage this, let alone many other countries in the world. And again, it's mostly being spread through homosexual men. We'll get a bit into that. And also, it has about if treated, about a 1% death rate, 10% if untreated. But typically doesn't spread widely because you need larger respiratory droplets. In other words, intercourse of some kind, typically, to be able to spread on any kind of like functional scale. But again, it is being used. Monkeypox is like the vehicle. It is like the horse, the Trojan horse, and inside are the soldiers of the new state powers that the WHO and the Biden administration are talking about granting using the image of a very disgusting looking disease. I mean, if you look at the pox it leaves on people, it does look very disturbing. Using a very visual, disturbing disease is an excuse to really push for these types of powers. Now, not trying to undermine monkeypox. Maybe it will be something big, and I want to get into some of the stuff on that because some of the actual games, funny enough, that they had last year talking about the hypothetical outbreak of monkeypox when nobody would have ever thought or imagined that monkeypox would become something like a global pandemic. But for some reason, they were talking last year, and I'll actually show you the reports on this, where they were talking about this. Funny enough, predicting it exactly this last month, 1 year beforehand, that there would be an outbreak. Very strange stuff, but let me explain. Now, again, I want to go into the germ games, they're calling them, these new monkeypox vaccines they've made, and some of the weird occurrences around this. First, though, folks, we do have a sponsor tonight. The sponsor is Secure. Over 155 million Americans are affected by data leaks in 2020. The average American had their personal data stolen about 4 times over the past year. People get anxious because they can't protect their online data or activity. But now there's a new email and messenger app called Secure. That's Secur. That can give privacy and security for sending emails and messages. Secure's server and data center are hosted in Switzerland. That's because Switzerland has the strictest data privacy laws in the world, becoming more important as they're putting these new surveillance technologies in place. Secure is also the only private and secure email and messaging app that does not rely on big tech companies like Amazon, Google, or Microsoft, which also means it's not subject to the Intrusive Cloud Act. Secure does not ask for your phone number, it does not mine your data, and it does not upload your contacts like other applications tend to do. Now, if you're using Secure, you can send an email, you can send an invite to someone who doesn't have it, or you can chat with people who already have it. And this way you're protected from hackers getting on your phone, and you have privacy while on the app. Now, folks, it's $5 for the messenger or $10 for the email and messenger package. You can visit secure.com today for a free 7-day trial, or you can use the promo code Joshua to get 25% off. And again, big thanks out to Secure for sponsoring tonight's episode. All right, a bit more into this, and then we're going to jump to Epic TV where we don't have to worry about censorship, because some of the stuff I'm going to talk about, they would probably censor me for saying on YouTube. But first, let me go over a bit of what the CDC itself says about monkeypox, just emphasizing kind of how this, because everyone's wondering what it is. Let me show you the CDC and just generally what they say about it, okay? This is the CDC website. It says transmission, just on transmission. Transmission of monkeypox virus occurs when a person comes into contact with the virus from an animal, human, or materials contaminated with the virus. The virus enters the body through broken skin, even if not visible, respiratory tract, and the mucous membranes, the eyes, the nose, or the mouth. Animal to human transmission may occur by bite or scratch, bushmeat preparation, direct contact with bodily fluids or lesion materials, or indirect contact with lesion materials, such as through contaminated bedding. Human to human transmission, which is the one we're mostly talking about here, is thought to occur primarily through large respiratory droplets. And it says respiratory droplets generally cannot travel more than a few feet, so prolonged face-to-face contact is required. So to spread from human to human, you need prolonged face-to-face contact, like you're kissing someone or something. Other human-to-human methods of transmission include direct contact with bodily fluids or lesion material, and indirect contact with lesion material, such as through contaminated clothing or linens. Now, it looks like it emerged from a homosexual festival in Spain, based on where this all came from. The Daily Mail had an article on this. It says Pride Festival in Gran Canaria, which was attended by 80,000 people, is linked to Spanish monkeypox outbreak, as well as 2 cases in Italy, while Europe reaches a total of 100. Now, it says the Pride event they had there has become the second focus of the outbreak in Spain. More than 100 cases of monkeypox have now been reported across Europe. And again, it's about, I think, 200 globally now. The UK Health Security Agency says a notable proportion of recent cases in Britain and Europe have been found in gay and bisexual men. There are 20 confirmed cases in the UK and more cases in 9 other countries. It does seem to be the case also, as even the WHO is saying, that for some reason, and they don't actually know why, it does seem to be primarily affecting homosexual men. I believe like 6 out of 9 cases are homosexual men. Just in terms, they don't know why, frankly. They're investigating it. Now, I want to go into some of the weird stuff with this briefly, though. Belgium has already made a quarantine policy for monkeypox. They're the first country to do this, and so there is already being implemented some degrees of quarantine. It's only for people who have contracted the virus, which under normal circumstances would be how you would have a quarantine. You don't quarantine healthy people, you quarantine people who actually have the virus. Belgium is the first country to do this with monkeypox so far. They're making it so if you catch monkeypox, it's 3 weeks of isolation or 21 days. Now, I want to go into the weird stuff that led into this, including Bill Gates calling for what they call germ games and warning of a bioterror attack of smallpox. And the smallpox vaccine is the one they're using for monkeypox. There's some weird stuff. We can't talk about this on YouTube, though, without risking getting censored. And so join us on Epic TV. Jump over now. Again, we have a deal right now for you. It's our special offer because it's the 1-year anniversary of Epic TV. 50% off for the whole year. Get it now. If you don't have the money for it, grab your free trial, 14-day free trial. We're giving you a free trial. It's in the description below. Come join us. We'll continue the discussion over on Epic TV. Briefly as well, folks, let me show you a quick trailer we have of one of our new episodes, and we'll jump over.
We've had election fraud occurring in this country for a very long time. You have organized cases of fraud, particularly when it comes to what the left likes to call vote harvesting.
Who are these paid operatives?
And these are folks, they're paid by the campaigns. They go up to people's homes, knock on the door, and either try to get their absentee ballot from them or tell them how to fill it out and then collect the ballots and deliver them. And there have been many instances where the voters say, well, I didn't actually fill out the ballot. The politicaro filled it out for me and told me who to vote for.
One of the big arguments right now is that somehow voter ID is racist.
It's a patronizingly racist argument. And the facts actually show how untrue it is. Look, the left has been using this for years to try to oppose election reforms that they don't like, voter ID being one of them.
Folks, that's actually a recent interview we just aired with Hans von Spakovsky. Those of you who saw 2000 Mules might know that Hans von Spakovsky is featured in that. We had a great interview about election fraud and how it works in the US and how widespread it is, and also the methods that different organizations have been using to rig elections. Stuff we can't talk about here also. Check it out again. That's our interview with Hans von Spakovsky. That's on Epic TV. All right, that said, let's jump over now. We're going to talk about Bill Gates and the germ games and the weird trials they did last year and all this stuff. Join us now on Epic TV. Get your free trial. We're jumping over. All right, folks. So this stuff is getting weird. It's particularly getting weird because, frankly, the same players seem to